An ancient civilization was wiped out by a massive comet 22,000 years ago, Graham Hancock claims, but he also claims that it may be returning very soon. Graham Hancock argues an ancient culture in Antarctica was obliterated, but subjects such as astronomy and mathematics were passed to later civilizations. Hancock is a popular name in the list of archaeologists and researchers who dared to look at ancient history with a different view. He became the loudest voice in the argument against the accepted chronology of the development of human civilization. He presented evidence of how a massive celestial object completely wiped out a human civilization much older than known settlements. Hancock proposed many alternative theories that might not please the mainstream archaeologists. For example, he said that some ancient structures, such as the Great Sphinx, were actually remnants of a much older stage of human civilization that existed before the end of the last ice age. He based his theory on the correlation between cultural and geological events between different sites, as distant as Indonesia, Turkey, Egypt, and India, and these indicate that a human civilization lived much earlier than it is claimed by scientists. In other words, mankind had developed advanced civilizations long before the emergence of the Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations that mainstream archaeology believes were the very beginnings of human civilization. In fact, Hancock proposed that ancient civilizations such as the Egyptians, Mayans, and Mesopotamians had only inherited the knowledge of a much more advanced civilization than predated them by possibly 6,000 years or more, and which was destroyed by a giant cataclysm. The same cataclysm that brought the last ice age to a dramatic end around 12,000 BC. We're talking about the Younger Dryas period. The Magician of the Gods. In his book Magicians of the Gods, Graham Hancock mentions traveling to the different parts of the world, gathering evidence for a lost ancestor civilization, which he argues disappeared during a cataclysm upheaval at the end of the last ice age due to a run-in with the broken shards of a massive comet. He suggested that this comet travels with the famous torrid meteor shower that comes in late June and early July, and again in October, late October to early November. He argued that this particular meteor shower is filled with massive remnants of a massive comet that broke up for some unknown reason roughly 20,000 years ago, the shards of which, some as large as 2 kilometers in diameter, collided with North America and the European ice sheets and brought about the apocalyptic Younger Dryas, that's around 12,900 to 11,700 years ago, BC, a phase of the Ice Age. Hancock wrote, "The impacts from comet fragments a mile wide, approaching at more than 60,000 miles an hour, generated huge amounts of heat, which instantly liquidized millions of square kilometers of ice, destabilizing the Earth's crust and causing the global deluge that's remembered in myths all around the world." A second series of impacts, equally devastating, causing further cataclysmic flooding, occurred 11,600 years ago, the exact date that Plato gives for the destruction and submergence of the lost continent of Atlantis. The evidence revealed in this book shows beyond reasonable doubt that an advanced civilization that flourished during the Ice Age was destroyed in the global cataclysms between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago. As per Graham Hancock, this sudden reemergence of cold was due to a comet that impacted the polar caps, triggering colossal tides and covering the atmosphere with dust for more than 1,000 years. The researcher collaborated in different explorations, visiting locations as mysterious as the sacred site of Gunung Padang in Indonesia, and there he found the remains of a columnar basalt that, according to him, belonged to a pyramid dating from the year 22,000 BC or even earlier. According to him, those who survived, known to ancient cultures as the sages, the magicians or the shining ones, and the mystery teachers of heaven, quote unquote. The cataclysms traveled the world in their ships to keep their signs of the dying civilization. They settled at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Baalbek in Lebanon, Giza in Egypt, ancient Sumer, Mexico, Peru, Indonesia, and other areas. And according to experts, Göbekli Tepe of Turkey is more than 9,600 years old and is the greatest evidence of the effects of a devastating scenario. According to Hancock, the area served for the survivors of the cataclysm to preserve at least some knowledge of the civilization that was annihilated with the intention of transmitting it to new generations. The researchers say that it's no coincidence that the first traces of the re-emergence of civilization in the form of the oldest known megalithic architecture, in addition to agricultural knowledge, occurred in Göbekli Tepe 11,000 years ago. This date coincides perfectly with the Younger Dryas and the return of a more pleasant global environment. Magicians of the Gods also presents evidence that fragments from the comet reached ancient Egypt as well, and there an ancient cult in Heliopolis developed a way to preserve historical knowledge for the benefit of new generations in the form of astronomical schematics and monumental architecture. Now, will this comet arrive again? In 2015, Graham Hancock claimed in his article published in the Daily Mail that an Earth-destroying comet was headed to Earth in 20 years, so that would be about 10 years from today. That would be 10 years from now. He wrote, "These magicians left a message for us, not a metaphorical spiritual message, but a direct, urgent warning. What happened before can happen again, and what destroyed their world can destroy ours." He warned that the impact of the comet will be 1,000 times worse than the detonation of every single nuclear weapon on the planet, a collision with the remnants of a comet big enough to end life as we know it. And this is from Collective Spark by Vicky Verma and Heisen Wise. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.